Hello and welcome to Tales from the Grave. Please allow me to be your guide to the darkest corner of the human soul. It's been said that the stories we tell shape the world we live in. What world would you have? Allow us to begin.
The Red Feast. The people of Wicker Hollow feared the forest long before they feared the wolves. It wasn't the beasts themselves that haunted them, but what the forest did to the people who stayed too long beneath its boughs. They whispered that the trees were ancient, older than the church bell, older than the village itself. Its roots ran deep enough to drink from old, buried things, things that remembered the taste of blood, the sounds of prayer. They said on certain nights the forest called back its own. No one remembered when the first of the red women appeared, only that sometimes a girl would vanish and return, years later, untouched by time. Her eyes bright as gold, her smile too sharp. She would come to the village gates with a crimson cloak and a soft voice that could quiet dogs, make even the hungriest of men forget his supper, and always she would leave again before the next full moon. 1. The Grandmother. The old woman in the cottage had a name once, Agnes Ward, but no one used that name any more. To the villagers she was Grandmother Red. She lived alone in the dark heart of the Black Wood, where the trees grew so close together that sunlight died before it touched the moss. Her cottage was a thing of old timber and bone, white plaster smelling faintly of herbs and iron. Inside, charms hung from the rafters, bundles of dried wolfsbane, silver thread, and tiny bones carved with symbols no priest could bless. Agnes had lived there since before anyone in the village was born. She looked ancient, but not frail, her skin pale and unlined, her eyes burning the yellow of candle wax. Once, long ago, she'd been a healer. Her hands had mended broken bones, her teas had soothed fevers, but when the harvest failed one year, and the fever swept through the town, she couldn't save them all. She buried her husband beneath the yew tree. And when she looked at that morning of earth, something inside her turned to stone. That night, she walked into the forest and begged for mercy, for the forest didn't grant mercy, it offered a trade. They came to her beneath the red moon, shapes that slithered and breathed, eyes gleaming through the trees, voices whispered from the soil, the roots, the leaves, drink of us, and you shall never die. When the dawn came, the villagers found her kneeling beside the yew, mouth smeared red, heart barely beating, her pulse nearly gone. After that, the wolves stopped howling near her home. 2. The Granddaughter. Evelyn was born on a stormy night 20 years later, the daughter of Agnes's only child, a woman who had fled the village, married a woodcutter, and swore never to speak her mother's name. But blood calls to blood, and when Eveline's mother died in childbirth, Agnes came for the babe. No one dared stop her. The girl grew wild in the woods, barefoot and bright-eyed, her laughter echoing through the trees. She learned to snare rabbits and brew teas, to whisper charms to the fire when storms rolled in. Agnes called her Little Red, for the cloak she had stitched from the skins of crimson fox, though in truth the color was closer to blood than fur. Eveline was beautiful in the way of wild things. Her hair was wheat gold, her skin white as birch, her eyes a startling gray that caught the light strangely, silver at dawn, gold by moonrise. The villagers saw her sometimes in the edge of the trees, carrying her basket of herbs. They crossed themselves and looked away. Children whispered stories that she spoke to wolves, that she danced in the glades when the moon was full. And though Agnes forbade her from going to the village, Eveline's curiosity grew with every passing year. "Why do they fear us, grandmother?" she asked once. "Because they remember what we are," Agnes said softly, "even if they do not understand it." "And what are we?" she said. The old woman smiled. Her teeth were too white. We are the daughters of the wood, the keepers of the feast. 3. The Feast. The curse, if it could be called that, was not a hunger for flesh, it was a hunger for vitality, for the pulse that marked the living. The forest had made them its guardians, but guardianship required blood. Each generation of red women was bound to feed the wood once a moon's turning, or else wither into ash. The offering had to be human. The stronger the heart, the sweeter the life that flowed into the soil. For centuries, men wandered into the forest and never returned. Bandits, travelers, hunters, they all vanished into the trees, and the forest grew thick and green. But in recent years, the villagers had grown weary. They no longer strayed from the path, no longer followed cries in the dark. The feast had gone too long unfed. Agnes felt the ache of it, her bones turning hollow, her veins like glass, and Evelyn too began to feel it. The hunger like a pulse beneath her tongue, the trembling in her hands. When she smelled blood, it was Agnes who devised the story. A little girl lost in the woods, a grandmother falling ill, a kindly huntsman who would come to save them both. The tale spread through Wicker Hollow like smoke. Men laughed, saying it was an old superstition, but when the huntsman heard, he felt something stir. A duty, perhaps, or pride. He strapped his axe to his back and followed the path into the trees. 4. The Huntsman. He was not a cruel man, but the forest had never frightened him, and he thought himself clever enough to outwit the wolves. The moon was high. When he reached the cottage, a thin trail of smoke rose from the chimney. Inside, he saw the flicker of firelight, the shadow of a girl moving about. He knocked once. The door creaked open. Eveline stood there, a vision in red. Her eyes reflected the candlelight strangely, like a cat's. "Good evening, sir," she said, voice soft as snow. "You must be the huntsman." He bowed awkwardly, caught off guard by her beauty. "I come to help. They said your grandmother was ill." "Oh," she said, smiling. "She's resting now, but she'll be glad of your company." He stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of lavender and something else, something metallic and sweet. On the table lay a half-eaten pie, dark filling, glistened in the dim light. "Rabbit?" he said. "Of sort," said Red. Her smile deepened. From the bed came a cough. A frail voice called out, "Who's there?" "Just a friend, ma'am," the huntsman replied, approaching. "I come to make sure you were safe." The old woman's shape shifted under the blankets, and the candlelight flickered, and her face turned towards him. Eyes gold as coins, lips pale and trembling. "Such a kind man," she whispers. "You come all this way? To feed us?" The huntsman froze before he could move. Red was behind him, her fingers brushing his shoulder. "You shouldn't have come alone," she whispered. The air changed. The warmth thickened, filled with copper tang of blood memory. The grandmother sat up, her face melting, bones crackling, eyes burning brighter, her mouth split wider than any human's could. Her voice was a growl from somewhere deep beneath the earth, the forest. "Thanks you, huntsman." He swung his axe. The wood shuddered and bled sap that smelled like rot. Red's cloak fell away. Beneath it, her skin shimmered like the pulse of something alive and ancient. Her teeth lengthened. Her eyes flared gold. The huntsman slashed again, but she caught his wrist mid-swing, her grip like iron. "Do you know," she said softly, "how many of you have come before? How many hunters thought they were saviors?" She leaned close, breath warm against his ear. "We let you think you're brave. It makes the meat sweeter." He didn't scream right away, but when he did, the forest swallowed the sound whole. 5. The morning after. At dawn, mist clung low over the trees. The cottage door swung open on creaking hinges. Evelyn stepped out, her cloak freshly washed, her skin glowing faintly pink. She carried her basket on her arm, covered with a white cloth. Something inside thumped, softly, rhythmically. "Where are you going, my heart?" called Agnes from the doorway. Her voice now strong again, her face smoothed and unlined. "To the village," said Evelyn, "to tell them the tale." The old woman smiled. "Good girl. Let them think the wolf is dead. Let them mourn their hero." Evelyn nodded and started down the path. The birds were singing, their song sweet and unaware. When she reached the edge of the forest, she paused and looked back. The cottage sat quiet, among the trees, smoking curling gently from the chimney. For a moment, she felt something. Regret, perhaps? A flicker of pity for the man whose heart now beat softly in her basket? But the hunger was stronger. She pulled her hood up and stepped into sunlight. 6. The Legacy. The villagers welcomed her with tears and questions. She told them everything, the wolf's cunning, the huntman's bravery. The villagers welcomed her with tears and questions. She told them everything, the wolf's cunning, the huntsman's bravery, how he'd saved her and her grandmother before being slain by the beast. They built him a pyre on the edge of the forest. Evelyn placed wildflowers on the stones and whispered thanks, partly for his sacrifice, partly for the life he'd given her. That night she dreamed of the forest. The trees whispered her name. Roots coiled beneath her feet, drawing her deeper. She saw herself older, her hair silvering, her eyes gold and bright, and beside her stood a child, small and laughing, wearing a new red cloak. "Every tale must begin again," murmured the voice of the forest. "Every feast must be renewed." When she woke, the moon was full. Somewhere beyond the hills, the wolves began to sing, and in the cottage, deep within the blackwood, Agnes raised her head and smiled. The hunger had passed. For now, the cycle continued, as it always had, as it always will. Epilogue. The New Tale. Years later, mothers in Wicker Hollow still tell the story of Little Red Riding Hood to their children. They tell it as a warning. Stay on the path. Beware of the wolves. For the girls who vanish now, girls with bright eyes and curious hearts, girls who stray too far beneath the trees, sometimes, just sometimes, a hunter may go looking for them. Sometimes a red cloak is found hanging from a branch, dripping with dew. And sometimes, on nights when the moon rises crimson and full, the villagers hear laughter drifting from the woods, mingled with the howl of the wolves. And it all sounds terribly human. Please leave a comment. Let us know where you're listening from. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and subscribe for more spine-tingling episodes of Tales from the Grave.